Welcome to the web edition, the fourth of our exclusive UK launch shows celebrating the 2014 release of the Creative Cloud. We're here at the Village Underground in Shoreditch.
We'll be joined by some of the Adobe worldwide evangelists, as well as luminary speakers from international digital agencies Huge and Reactive.
They'll be sharing some of the challenges and successes of their recent responsive web projects, and we'll also have a whole load of creative insights and inspiration from up here in the Tube. Along with all of that, we'll have loads of Creative Cloud demonstrations from the biggest release since CS6. You can join the conversation on Twitter by using the hashtag #CreateNow. But before we kick off with all of that, let's take a look at the prizes and how to enter the competition. Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch, with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services. And a 12-month membership to the Fotolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the hashtag #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now.
Let's take a closer look at what's coming up in the show. There will be presentations and Tube insights from our Adobe evangelists Rufus, Michael and Jason. The first of our luminary speakers, Max Moyer from digital agency Reactive, will be sharing insights from one of his recent successful responsive web projects. Josh Payton from digital agency Huge will also be giving us an under-the-hood look at his recent global responsive website build in the second of our luminary presentations. And there will be plenty of behind-the-scenes Tube chats and Creative Cloud demonstrations throughout the show. So let's get the web show underway. It's over to Lucy on the main stage.
Okay, so our next speaker is Michael Shays, who's going to share with us a little bit of Adobe Photoshop magic and generator technology. So, round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. Thanks, Lucy. Yeah, we will see together some new features in the 2014 release of Photoshop CC. Who likes Photoshop here? Yeah, of course, we love Photoshop. So we start with something very classic. You just open a PSD file coming from someone else, maybe another designer, and one font is missing. Maybe several fonts are missing. But now, Photoshop CC 2014 can detect that the missing font is available on typekit.com. And as you are a member of the Creative Cloud, you can access this catalog of fonts. So just clicking here on Resolve Font, it will download and install the font for me. I don't have to do anything. And this is not the only innovation that we have added for fonts. So if I select this text layer, I will now introduce you the new font list menu, okay? Brand new. So what you can do, for instance, it's like a search engine for fonts. So you can say, I want to display the standard font, italic style, and it will filter everything for me, okay? Also, you can say, I just want to display the fonts coming from Typekit. If you are a web designer, it's the best way to make sure that you have a 100% web-safe workflow. But there is more. There is this small addition that I really like. So I really want you to pay attention to this text here, because as I scroll, as I mouse over the font list, look at that. Whoa, live preview of the font, yeah? Yeah, baby. Small addition. And the engineers, they don't believe me, you know, when I tell them, no, I show that people go crazy. Say, what? So now I can start working on this file. So let's check the header together. If you look at this layer here, there is this new icon. It means that it's a linked smart object. Usually when you place a smart object, it's embedded within the PSD, like a zip file. Okay? But now you can place a linked smart object, which is a PSD, another file that resides outside the PSD. It can also be a file coming from Illustrator. And for me, it's a game changer, because I can have several designers working on small pieces while I'm working on the main PSD file. And every time they will edit something, I will get the update. Okay? So to edit a linked smart object, you just have to double-click on the layer. Here we go. And I'm not happy with this header. I want the text and the line to go behind the singer. So what I would usually do, I would duplicate the mask, okay, and then I would use the quick selection tool, okay? If I am in bad shape, maybe I'm sick, I will use the magic wand tool, okay? But here, in this case, there is depth of field, okay? It's a specific use case, and I just want to keep the singer, which is in the focus area. So what you can say now is, Photoshop, please select for me what is in focus. It will analyze the picture and create a mask for you. Here we go. All the pixels that are in focus. And you can change the focus range. If you have 4 ranges, it will adapt and find the pixels that are in focus. And it creates a mask, okay? So I want to keep this. As it's a mask, I can use the Refine Edge tool, okay, just to make sure that I can use the Smart Radius, maybe smooth it a little bit, add some contrast, make sure I preserve some details in the hair, and boom, that's it. In 5 seconds, I get my mask, and it looks good. I just have to save it, and I go back to Photoshop, to my PSD file, and this is there. So, new features also. How many web designers, application designers in the room? Yeah. So all the layout designers, we struggle with dimensions. And here, I feel that this title is not centered. Okay? But it takes forever in Photoshop just to make sure that I have exactly the same dimensions. Now, what you can do in Photoshop, you just select the layer, you press Command on the Mac, and as you mouse over other layers, look at that, boom, you get the dimensions. Boom, 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 boom. OK, and now using the arrows, I can be very precise, and now I am perfectly centered. Okay? So these are the new smart guides for all the Photoshop UX designers. Same story here. I feel that these circles are not well distributed. So I will move this one here, move this one here. And now, as I am moving this one, look at that, boom, it will snap and say, do you want to keep exactly the same gap between the layers? This is something we used to have we still have in InDesign, but now we get it in Photoshop CC. Okay? So it's much easier to create good layout. OK, now let's work on this picture. OK, I like the guy. I kind of like the haircut. He plays the guitar, but I can tell that the photographer used a flash, so I don't see the hand moving. I'm losing some energy here. I know that he plays the guitar. So I want to add a motion blur. The issue with motion blur here is that it will be too linear, and also I will have to create a mask. Okay? So it will take a lot of time. So we have added new blur effects in the blur gallery. So filter, blur gallery, path blur. This is my favorite one. You will see why. OK, now you will get sick, because I can play with the direction of the path blur. Ready? OK. Now we can get sick. And it doesn't have to be a linear motion blur, okay? I can add a curve like this. And if I select the endpoint, I can play with the strength of the blur. Here we go. I will create another one here. OK, reduce the strength. And I don't even have to create a mask, because if I create another path here, and using the slider, I will say that the endpoint, I don't want to blur anything. Everything that is outside should be sharp. And here we go. I have this new effect on the hand, and everything is sharp. Okay? Does it looks good? Yeah? I think it looks good. Yeah, thank you. And as I am in London, the capital of rock and roll, I will go rock and roll. OK, here we go. You can do that also. OK, go crazy. Yeah. And now it looks super rock and roll. And it's non-destructive, so at any time you can double-click on the blur gallery and edit the values of the blur. Okay? Non-destructive, blur gallery, very cool in Photoshop CC. Oh, another sweet addition for the layout designers. Who knows how to use layer comps here? 5 people, okay. So layer comps, something very nice. It's a way to save the states of your layers, the visibility of your layers. So you can say, okay, I want to save the blue state or the blue with the flash state, okay? And you just select your layers and say, I save a new layer comp. So what is really nice is that now, if you save it and include it as a linked smart object in a PSD, you just have to open the Properties panel, and you can select the layer comp you want to display in your PSD. So maybe another designer will send me a button with 3 proposals, and I will try the blue version. So yeah, that's OK. The blue flash. No, OK, I prefer the orange one. Okay? So this is how you can create very easily a set of components, for instance, or different proposals on the sky, thanks to the layer comps. OK, let's continue this. It looks great. Again, I'm not very happy with the energy of this picture because we are talking about music, so this is a little bit static. I want it to spin. Okay? I want to add a rotation blur, although it doesn't make any sense because there is no tape, as you can see. But I want it to rotate. And if you check on YouTube how to add a spin blur, it will take 50 steps, okay? Something like 30 minutes, just to add the spin blur. And I will do it in 10 seconds. Okay, ready? This is why, because I have in the blur gallery the new spin blur effect. And I have this beautiful ellipse. I can move it here, change the dimensions here. There we go. Pressing Alt, I can change the rotation center and play with the strength. And look how realistic this is. I mean, you can really feel the move here. Okay, and you can even add a strobe effect if you want to simulate what would come from a classic camera, okay? Something that you get in all the movies. Again, you press OK. It's non-destructive. You can go back, double-click on the blur gallery. You can edit the values. This is the new spin blur, something that all the designers and photographers will use on cars, will use on bikes. Very, very useful. And OK, well, this one is interesting. So you know the content-aware fill technology. Very cool. You like it. But sometimes it fails. Sometimes it's not good. So let me show you when it's not good. I will use the content-aware move tool. Okay, so I will select this girl. Here we go. And I will move her to the first position. Ready? Shook. And then it's not perfect. You see the blue in the background? It's because the content-aware fill algorithm doesn't match with the color in the background. So it happens all the time with the sky, with the sea, or a gradient on the wall. So it's not super efficient. So that's why the Photoshop team has just added a new color parameter in all the content-aware tools, okay? All the tools. So if you play with the color parameter, and I will increase the value to 7, and check that. Now it perfectly blends with the background because it will analyze the blue in the background. You like it? Is it useful? Yes. It's a good one. I will try to make it like Jason. Yes! You see? I'm not 40 yet, so yeah. I don't have this midlife crisis, so I don't have to. OK, so now I have my web design. I'm really happy with it, but I need to give it to a web developer. I have to export all the assets, create the PNG files, create the JPEG files. On this page, I think I have to export something like 50 to 60 assets. So now there is a new technology in Photoshop. It's called Adobe Generator for Photoshop CC. Just doing File, Generate, Image Assets, it will launch an engine in the background so that every time you rename a layer, it will generate the image for you. So let me display my Finder here. Okay, so this is my Finder. It creates an assets folder. Okay, and I want to export this button. So let me select it. Actually, these are 2 layers, so I will group the layers. Here, you see the button. Okay, and I will rename this group of layer EPUB button dot .png. And that's it. If you check my Finder, I already have the button generated in the background. You don't have to press any button. And it's a very advanced technology now. So, OK, follow me. OK, stay with me on this. I want to create a button for high-density screens, for the Retina screen. So I will have to scale it by 400%. OK, I want to create a Retina subfolder. And inside, I will get epub-hi.png. I also want to generate at the same time a classic version, a JPEG, OK, just for my mockup. OK, comma, epub classic.jpg. That's it. I check my Finder. I don't have to do anything. I have my JPEG here, a Retina subfolder, and boom, the version for the Retina display. And what is really nice is that it's saved inside my PSD file. Okay? So within 3 weeks, when the customer will ask me, can you change the color here? Can you change the design here? You just have to work on your design, and in the background, it will generate all the assets. And it creates really a unique workflow. So if you have someone working in Dreamweaver, for instance, and by the way we updated the live view, so who knows the live view in Dreamweaver? You know, it's the best way to have a faithful experience, to render the browser directly. You will have exactly the same, okay, as it was the final result. But what I don't like with the live view, what I didn't like, was that I was checking, oh, I have to modify something. So you deactivate the live view, you change the code, you check, oh, no, it's not good. Okay, back and forth. So now, with the live view in Dreamweaver, you can directly edit the content. Okay, so you can say, OK, I want to change the text here. Here we go. It updates the live view, but also it updates the code in the background. Or you want to try a CSS selector on this div. OK, I have a soft shadow class somewhere. OK, I will keep this one. So you edit the live view. You have also, let's say, an image. You have the basic parameters here. So it's very, very nice experience. But what I wanted to show you is that imagine you have web designers working in Photoshop and using Generator to generate the assets, and someone else working in a code editor on the website. Then you don't have to export everything, because if you share the folder, and by the way, it's a new feature also of the Creative Cloud, you can now have shared folder, okay, in the Creative Cloud among several CC users. You can, okay, work on the header, and it has been a very sunny day in London, so maybe I should add some shades here. I don't have to press save. I don't have to export for the web. I don't have to do anything. I know that the file is already on my disk. Okay. It has been generated by Generator. So if I update my view, I have the shades directly in Dreamweaver, and I can send it to the website. Okay. So really, with this new release, we are introducing a new workflow for all the designers. For photographers, you have seen that they are the new spin blur, the new path blur, also the new content-aware fill technology. But for all the web designers in the room, all the UX designers, take a look at the 2014 release of Photoshop CC, because there are tons of new features. I was just able to show maybe 10% of the new features of this release. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that, and see you soon. Thank you.
Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch, with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services. And a 12-month membership to the Fotolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the hashtag #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now.
months in 2013, we asked 10 international artists to create and share 10 exclusive artworks. They did far more than that. How do they work? Where do they find inspiration? What can they teach you? New exclusive concept. 10 Season 3.
So, hi everybody, I'm Max Moyer. I'm the Digital Strategy Director at Reactive here in the UK, and I have project oversight for all our projects here in the UK and in Europe. I've been working in creating innovative and award-winning digital solutions for about 8 years, and I've just noticed from that photo that somehow I've managed to coordinate exactly the same clothes as when that photo was taken, which probably says more about my wardrobe than my ability to plan ahead. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about our approach to responsive design, so the challenges and the different approaches and new software that we've had to look at with regards to the new ways that we develop projects in the responsive way, and particularly through the lens of a case study that we launched for Tesco called Tesco Living last year. Before I go into that, though, it's probably worth telling you a little bit about Reactive. Reactive is a global agency. We just celebrated our 17th birthday, so we're 17 years old. We work out of offices in Sydney, Melbourne, Auckland, New York, and of course here in London. We've been creating web solutions, so web builds, app builds, and also real-world applications of digital technology for a number of different clients, including Amnesty International, British Airways, Coles Supermarkets, and of course Tesco, who I'm here to talk about today. Before I go into the actual project, it's probably worth talking a little bit about Tesco as a client. As a brand, Tesco has a number of very specific challenges and ambitions, and they're a brand that people feel very strongly about one way or another. And even though at their peak almost £1 in every 3 was spent in a Tesco store in the UK, they have found it very difficult to kind of convert that profitability over towards brand warmth, and a lot of their customers feel very captive when they enter their stores. But they're also a company with very strong values and beliefs in the customers and the communities that they serve. And the challenge for Tesco from a marketing perspective has really always been to warm up their customers' perception of them, to really warm up that brand, and to try and provide advice and information in a way that allows customers' perceptions of them to change. Our relationship with Tesco goes back about 8 years, and in that time, we've worked with them alongside a content marketing agency called Cedar Communications to try and move that brand proposition primarily from print over towards the online space. We launched Tesco Real Food, which is a recipe website, and that site really provides mums and families with advice and hints and tips about cooking, and recipes that help them with convenience and quick and easy and healthy food to put on their table. We've also launched a fledgling wine community, and that wine community really is a platform for Tesco's wine experts to really share their passion for food and their passion for drinking with customers. And finally, we've also launched Tesco Living. Now, Tesco Living is very much a lifestyle website that provides hints and tips, advice and information to mums to really enjoy that family life and celebrate what it's like to live in a family, as well as make your budget kind of stretch a bit further. And that's the project that I'm going to talk a little bit about today. Prior to the launch of Tesco Living, we launched a site called Tesco Magazine back in 2010. Tesco Magazine, as a website, really was launched in support of the free print magazines that come out monthly that you can take home from the store. And the site itself was launched really primarily in support of that magazine, which goes out to about 5 million readers every month, which makes it, I think, pretty much the second most read magazine in the UK. As it was supporting that print magazine, it very much really just echoed what was in the print. So it really was there as an archive so that people who missed out on getting hold of the magazine were able to pick up online that content that they'd missed out on or find long out-of-print articles. It was built on an old proprietary content management system, and the article templates that were on the site were actually very inflexible and not really lending themselves to multimedia and that sort of thing. Now, when the site was launched, this was deemed appropriate, as it was because it was supporting very much the print magazine. And it was very much before smartphones and tablets and the way that we now consume the web changed, and that penetration of smartphones and tablets really came into play. But clearly, as people start to consume web content in that way through those multiple different devices, the site was starting to look a bit out of date and in need of refreshing. And that's where Tesco Living came into play. So working with our partner agency, Cedar Communications, we approached Tesco with a whole new proposition, which we called Tesco Living. That proposition really refocused what the objectives of the site should be for both the business and the customer, and it reconsidered our audience and identified those changes in online behavior across these multiple different devices. We took mums as our core audience, and we looked at what our site could do to really help solve our audience's day-to-day problems and get into our audience's mindsets, creating a more focused and useful, practical hub of information that would in turn demonstrate Tesco's expertise in the family, food, and living space. Now, to meet those objectives, our approach was threefold. Firstly, we created a new 4-pillar focus on the site for the content. Those 4 pillars really focus on the needs and wants of our audience. So health and well-being of you and your family, ideas and assistance to make your family life fun and exciting, so trips out and how to entertain the kids during the school holidays. Advice and offers to help your finances stretch further, so offers from the store and hints and tips about how to get the best deals. And finally, a section of very sticky content which was daily updated, really focused at trying to engage mums during their downtime or their me time. And then the final part of that strategy underpinning those objectives was really to bring the site up to date, so refresh the look and feel, make it more vibrant and exciting, as well as build it responsively to make use of those cross-device browsers. Responsive web design is now really ubiquitous. When I talk to clients now about the benefits of designing a site responsively, they're very well aware of the benefits of creating a site from a single code base with optimized browsing experiences across different devices. But just 18 months ago, the landscape was very different, and actually we went on a very interesting educational journey with our clients. But more than that, though, responsive design has thrown up a whole heap of new design, development, and project management challenges. And we've really had to feel our way around them and develop new working processes to manage things from discovery right the way through to delivery. Now, when we started work on the Tesco Living site, it became very clear that our old, more siloed way of working an approach to web design and build really wasn't going to cut the mustard with regards to responsive. So effectively, we had to establish a whole new set of conventions and working practices to deliver better results in this responsive field. And alongside those working processes and practices, we've also had to look at new types of tools and software to ensure that our delivery was the best possible delivery. So what do these new approaches and processes and tools look like. First off, as sites are being consumed in more and more different ways across different devices, it becomes ever more important to understand the needs of our users and also the needs of our clients. Not least because when we design responsively, we take a mobile-first approach. And when you take a mobile-first approach, you're actually shrinking your best possible screen size right down to the very smallest real estate. Now, what that means is the essence of the site really has to come out across mobile in the first instance as the site builds, and then as the site builds across larger screens, you can get more functions and features in place. For the Tesco Living project, we undertook a holistic definition phase that brought in all of our key stakeholders from the client side and also from our user side. With our clients, we re-established what the objectives of the site should be through individual interviews, one-on-one with our stakeholders, and then through workshops as groups. And once those site objectives had been re-established, we then asked our clients to look at the content hierarchy of the site, really to prioritize the functions and the features of the site in their eyes as it related to those objectives. Really, that was an exercise in ensuring that when we come to design and user experience, we're ensuring that when we design on mobile, that all the most important and optimized features and functions of the site are brought to the fore. We ran the same exercise with our users as well. And then with some analytics insight from our existing Tesco Magazine site, we blended the two together to establish placement positions across all of the different screen sizes and screen variations. And this really helped our user experience and design teams to really get under the skin of what was important to the site and its objectives. One of our biggest challenges in responsive design has been to create better cross-team collaboration across the different skill sets in our organization. What we used to see was our designers and user experience guys working pretty autonomously and siloed on designs, so scamping, wireframing, all the way through to design, before then handing it over to our front-end developers. Now, there was a bit of consultation there, but they really weren't working together. What that means for us, problematically with the responsive design, is that our front-end developers will then take those designs and have to retrofit screen transitions and different screen formulations across the different devices. So clearly, cross-team collaboration has become really essential in our new approach to web design. Now, we overcame this with the Tesco Living project through the creation of design, user experience, and front-end development working teams. So rather than working independently, these teams work very closely together right from the outset, so right from the very definition phase. Those working teams brought all their different independent skills to the table and were able to share that expertise and those skills to get a better end result. So that working team looked at all those core principal pages of the site and they scamped up core templates in the various different resolutions. From those scamps of those core page templates, we were able to identify common themes across the different pages, hero decks or listings of articles, that sort of thing. Those common themes were identified as design patterns, so things that would repeat across the site globally. And we then designed those up in a more modular, columnar way so that we were able to identify how those particular parts of the page would restructure across different screen types. The idea here really is to break the site down into its component parts and create an array of stackable building blocks from which all page templates can be created with regular and common responsive behavior. So those are just a couple of the things that we did with regards to our processes. But as I said before, we needed to identify new tools, new software to help us with those new processes. Now, when it comes to wireframing, it's no longer really enough to present clients with flat wireframes anymore. In the definition and discovery phase, prior to wireframing, we actually presented prototypes to clients. So each of those page structures were sent to the clients to have a look at exactly how the page was going to reformat. So then moving on to present them with wireframes that were flat, it felt like a bit of a step back in the process. So as well as defining page structure, wireframes are now becoming increasingly important to us from the perspective of defining user journeys as well. So the user landing on the home page and working his way through the site to a predefined goal or conversion point. And this is where tools like Edge Reflow really come into their own. And there really is a need for tools like this for clients to get to grips with the development and the build process. On the Tesco Living project, we worked through all the pages, creating clickable wireframes for each. And we then shared those with the client stakeholders. Now, the clients were able to use those wireframes to see those user journeys that I was talking about earlier. But not only that, they were able to also reformat the wireframes to see how those wireframes and how the site would start to take shape across different screens and devices. Now, as well as helping that dialogue with clients, these clickable and reformatting wireframes became incredibly useful from the perspective of our internal teams as a process document to hand over to the back-end development team so that they could start getting their teeth into exactly what the build was going to look like. So moving on to more design. When it comes to screen interface design, we've now moved almost exclusively over to Illustrator. We've done this for a number of key reasons, particularly as it relates to responsive web design. Illustrator allows for the creation of artboards, which means that we can align different screen versions of the same page on the same screen. So our designers can work with those different screens side by side. Now, what that means is they can see exactly which screen is providing which kind of set of features and functions, and it means that when they make tweaks and adjustments to those page designs, that it's very much easier to make them in a consistent way. They don't have to dive in and out of individual files. The other reason we like Illustrator is that it allows for the creation of artwork and pattern linking. So what that means is those design patterns that I mentioned earlier, those global pieces of page structure that repeat across the different elements of the site, we can link those through to an Illustrator file. And that means that page construction becomes a lot quicker. But on top of that, when we need to make changes to those global elements, like the header or the footer, we can make them globally across all of our page designs at the same time, rather than having to go into every single file. The other thing that that artwork linking really allows for is much smaller file sizes, which means that we can share files internally and externally much more easily. Although on that, with regards to file sharing, one of the real benefits of the Creative Cloud has been for us the ability to share files over the cloud without our clients having the need of the native application or the native format of the files we're sending over. So we can send Illustrator files to our client over the cloud, and they can view them in that format, in Illustrator format, without having to have the licenses themselves. The final reason we really like Illustrator is from the perspective of creating vector-based designs. As web design moves forward and as resolutions and higher density displays become available, creating vector-based designs for web future-proofs our site. So when the iPad 232 comes out in 18 months' time, we'll know that our site isn't going to end up looking pixelated, that it's extensible across those higher resolution screens. The other benefit of Vector is that it's obviously smaller, portable file sizes, but also, particularly for us, the fact that it's extensible to higher resolution means that we can very easily make print-ready design screens for marketing and promotion and DM, as well as high-definition videos. And that's particularly important for us, being as we still support the print magazine. So it means we can provide marketing screens for use in the print magazine without having to redesign things from scratch. And finally, a word on development, really. We work with both Brackets and Edgecode. I asked one of our front-end developers to tell me a little bit about why he really likes Brackets to work with. And this is what he came back to me with. Choosing an IDE is an important personal decision for a developer to make. It's the beginning of a beautiful relationship that will blossom and develop over time. Now, clearly, he's a man who's very passionate about his job. But it's fair to say that Brackets is very simple to use. It does its job well, and it has a very clear focus, which is front-end web design. It's open source, cross-platform, and it's free to use. And the open source part of that is really very important to us because it relates to developer communities where we can share best practice with other developers from other agencies, and we can really get to understand what people are doing in their fields. It's also very visually pleasing. You can work with it in full screen mode, and has very minimal visual clutter. And from a development perspective, when you're staring at a text editor all day, these are massively important factors. So those really are the processes and the tools that we've gone through. I want to just show you a little bit about a little bit of what we actually built. The end product. So you can see here the development process at play here. So this is the scamps with the annotations that we started off with in our working teams. And you can see the common screen elements through to wireframes, and then the final design there. So we keep annotations throughout so that we have a good track record of what the different development processes are going to be. This really shows just an array of different screens from the site. On the right-hand side, you can see a gallery page and how it reformats in an optimized way for mobile. And then across here, you can see various repeating design pattern motifs. So the heroes repeating, the listings of different articles are repeating as well. This is an article page, and I mentioned earlier about how we wanted to move towards more flexible article templates. And one of the really great things about the site is that from our content editor's perspective, is that we created article templates that allowed them to use building blocks in a modular fashion to bring in multimedia. What this means is that though the articles are coming from the same place, that they're able to be very much more versatile and there's a lot more variety. So in theory, no two articles should ever really look identical to each other, which gives a great browsing experience for our users. And this is one of the zones, one of the landing pages on the site called the Kids Zone. And really, it just shows you how, even though you're using the same building blocks, when you reskin it, actually, the structure's the same, but the page looks very different. So just to finish on some evidence of success, since the build last year, we've had a 270% increase in visitors. That's really quite gratifying on the basis that we haven't really marketed the site very much, which means that from a word-of-mouth perspective, it's really gaining traction. And particularly impressive is the almost 1,000% increase in visits from mobile and tablet devices, which means that our responsive design is really starting to take effect. And finally, we've got increased engagement times and page views across all devices. Now, when you consider that the average engagement time on mobile and tablet devices is very much shorter than on desktop and laptop, that, again, is also extremely gratifying. Thank you very much.
It's great to see Adobe Creative Cloud products being used on big responsive website projects there, particularly Adobe Illustrator. I'm here now with Michael, our Adobe evangelist, and we're going to be talking about some of the latest features that there are in this release for website designers. Michael, can you run us through a few of them?
Yeah, sure. So maybe we can start with Illustrator. As a recap, what I really like is this ability just to copy something in Illustrator, and when you paste, it's actually SVG code. Yeah. And it can be a scalable SVG, that will automatically adapt the dimensions. So that's a great addition.
Really important for responsive design, of course.
Yeah, and also you can extract CSS properties from Illustrator. So I see more and more web designers using Illustrator, but not only to design icons, but to mock up pages, web pages.
With the artboards, you can really plan out the site, can't you, from the very early stages and create prototypes and that sort of thing.
Prototypes and even really decent code with the CSS extract feature. And this is also something we do in Photoshop.
Yeah.
And in this new release of Photoshop, you have new features, especially for the web designers, actually. You have the new smart guides. You can also use Photoshop, Adobe Generator for Photoshop.
Yeah.
Which is a game changer. I mean,
hugely time-saving, isn't it? And it takes away the pain of that really repetitive process of file, say for web, slicing things up and selecting all of the different parameters for those different images you need to export. Right?
Yeah, you just have to rename your layers, and if you name a layer icon.png, you will get the PNG file on your hard disk. And what I like is that it's saved. It's inside the PSD. So if you have to update your design 2 weeks after, you just change your design in the background. I mean, it's magical.
You're always sure everyone's got the most up-to-date assets, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic.
So yeah, so Photoshop, really great additions for web designers and also for UX designers, who design applications.
Yeah.
And then we also updated Dreamweaver.
Yes.
Which is still massively used. I mean, there's huge user base still using Dreamweaver to create websites, and this new release has been modernized. And the live view, you see what I mean? Yeah. So the live view is a way to preview. It's 100%, let's say, say faithful what will be the final website, because we are launching a web engine directly in Dreamweaver. But then in the past, you would use the live view and then, I need to fix something. So you deactivate the live view, you change the code, and you go back with the live view. Now you can directly edit the design within the live view.
Fantastic.
So you change the text, you apply a new CSS selector to a specific block, a div, and you see the result in real time, and in the background Dreamweaver will update the code. So yeah, it's fantastic for all the Dreamweaver users.
Absolutely. And we've got some great new features in Edge Animate as well, haven't we, with this release?
So in Edge Animate, now we support audio, so this is something we introduced in January, but also now video, because you know video is now a standard in HTML5, and now you can directly place and control video in your HTML5 animations. And there is also a new great addition for all the animators. You can import sprite sheets coming from Flash Pro, because there are still a lot of animators who are using Flash Pro, not only to animate but also to draw all the assets, and then you can export a professional sprite sheet and run the animation directly in Edge Animate.
Absolutely. We've got a deep dive coming up on that later on actually, so do stay tuned for that. And anything else that we should cover in this section?
For all the Flash fans also, now we support WebGL export. So WebGL, you know, uses the GPU, so it's hardware accelerated, so you can have animations running 60 FPS on almost all the devices. And now it's directly supported inside Flash Pro. Yeah,
great, fantastic. So really fantastic new features there for web designers. I hope you can make use of them very, very soon. Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch, with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services. And a 12-month membership to the Fotolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the hashtag #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now. With insights approaches that have gone into the success of his recently responsive website project for Eurosport, please welcome VP of UX for digital agency Huge, Josh Payton.
So yeah, today I'm going to talk to you about a case study for a site that we've just launched. It launched in France a while ago, and it's launching globally, I think, in the next week or two. How many people here are UX designers? Oh, like 3. Great. How many people here work on the web? Oh, all right. So I'm not, okay. Always know your audience. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to talk about Eurosport. So basically, like in any, I'm just basically going to talk about how Huge does process kind of in general here. Like in anything we do, we always start with kind of like the same approach. And the question that you ask at the beginning of any project is always the same, right? It's like, who are we actually designing for? With Eurosport, it's one of those that like, it's great because we all kind of use it. It's a sports website, you know, so like everybody's kind of a user. The other thing too is that the client was also very savvy, so it was kind of a lot easier to do really ambitious stuff because they knew what they were doing. For other stuff, like this question is sometimes very, very hard. Financial services stuff, for instance, this is always a very difficult question. So one of the things we did was we looked at Nielsen numbers just around like global news and sports news, and we found that like sports fans are more engaged online than kind of anybody. They're hardcore fanatics. However, there's a lot fewer people that are interested in sports than news. So that basically kind of gave us like 2 hypotheses to work with when we approached this. Number one was that sports fanatics are really passionate, and they might love a particular sport, but they tend not to be very like focused on one thing. They generalize in terms of sports in general. But they kind of can't get enough. So like when you look at like the kind of use cases that you see against like a fanatic on a sports site, they're looking at everything from specific clubs to results, all the way down to like history about teams and you know, mainstream idols and celebrities, you know, the David Beckhams of the world if you want. The second hypothesis, though, is that like not everybody loves sports, and I don't think this is really a hypothesis, really, but it's kind of obvious. But like generally people are interested in kind of big events. Like even people that don't watch football are still interested in the World Cup because it's like a global kind of happening. You know what I mean? So when we kind of look at this thing of like fanatics can't get enough, like non-fanatics can like part of it. So they might not be interested in a specific club or you know different sports or non-mainstream athletes and stuff like that. There's stuff that's going to kind of appeal to everybody. And this kind of gave us like a steer on how to kind of design for like each end of the spectrum, like the fanatics and the non-fanatics. So when in any kind of in any project we do, we always try to create personas, and in this one we created 2. Brian, who is the fanatic, and I won't read these because it's all fake, and Tony, who's the casual fan, who this is also all fake. The reason that we do personas for anybody that might not know is it kind of just gives people in business kind of oriented positions, something to sort of go off of. When you're looking at comps and stuff like that, it gives people that may not kind of have empathy in their job title, which is sort of what a UX designer does. It gives them kind of a lens to look at whatever the work you're doing is in different contexts. So how's this going to work for the fanatic? How's this going to work for the non-fanatic? Whatever. But it kind of brought us to this, right? Like it needs to be the main destination for people who are like crazy into sports. But it also needs to be a friendly destination for people who aren't fanatics as well. So like our sort of like brilliant idea it's actually very simple. It's just designed for fanatics, but it's great for people that aren't fanatics. And then as we started to like research a little bit more broadly about Eurosport in general, we kind of wanted to look at the identity of like who is Eurosport as a brand. And their identity is actually very strong, but when you start to look around, it's a little bit fragmented in different places. So when we're looking at redoing the website for basically every device possible, we kind of wanted to think about like how do we position Eurosport in this context. So you know, we did the competitive analysis. I love doing these because no one ever has good websites, so you can always just be like, oh, that looks like oh, that looks like oh, that looks like and that looks like and that looks like and that looks like oh, actually that's kind of cool. It's black. Like somebody actually made a black website. Oh, but it's Eurosport's partner. And this was actually a thing that came out a lot, like as we started to see something, like, oh, like black. Like no one's really doing this really sort of bold thing. And so we started to do a little bit like wider kind of thing of like brands in general. And if you look at like the brand spectrum of like online properties, everybody's covering every color. I don't know why no one's doing pink, because there's a big opportunity there. But if you look at like down here in the like black and white area, like even fewer are doing it, and we kind of had to stretch even to get to people that were doing that kind of thing. And then we started to look around at sports, and I might be biased because I'm originally from Brooklyn, but there's one logo on this, in this grid that sticks out, at least if you ask me there is, and it's the Nets logo, right? Like, instead of doing all this like wild, intricate graphic stuff, they basically just went flat and bold and really, really clean, and it really stands out. It's like, I think it's actually one of the strongest brands in sports right now. And as we started to look around at other things, like the context in which you're going to be using the Eurosport site, this is like one of their, this is just a random screenshot of a I think it was their Tour de France coverage from a couple years ago. But like, we started to notice these things, right? And it's black again. It was like another kind of thing that we kind of, a clue that we saw coming out. And as we started to think about this, it was like, oh, well, if you're watching television and you want to get more detail, you're probably going to pull your phone out, or you're going to pull your iPad out, or like whatever lazy man's computer you have sitting around you while you're watching television. And it would be really cool if just some of those like subtle cues kind of teased back and forth to each other. And so it kind of made us think, like, no one's doing this. Like, no one's doing like the bold black thing except maybe the Brooklyn Nets. And you know, it kind of plays back to one of the things the brand's doing anyway with their partners and what they're doing on the television. And so it started to get us thinking, like, maybe we should do this kind of across all of this stuff. And then if you look at, you know, other places, right? Like the Eurosport logo is really fiddly. And so like when you start to look at home screen icons, if you bookmark this to your home screen, we wanted to basically make a way that this stands out there as well. Like, how do you kind of make people click that instead of one of those ugly things? Yeah, so then we started to look at photography as well. And so one of the things, you know, if you've ever worked with any kind of content aggregator before, you know that like a lot of the assets you get tend to be a little bit all over the place. And so photography is one of them. Like, even though you'll get like really great photographs, they all have a very different look and feel. They all have a very different tone. They all kind of, you know, maybe good, maybe not so good. You know, they all kind of like, they hang all over the place, right? So the problem is that these pictures can come from anywhere. And so one thing we're kind of looking at is like, if you have them all over the place and they kind of don't like all hang together with a single style, is there something we can do to sort of like add a little bit of flavor to this to make it kind of stand out and like have a kind of a Eurosport signature elsewhere on the web? So if you start to see this stuff like on Facebook, for instance, or on Twitter, like that, you kind of, there's like a common theme across all this stuff, just in the way that photography is treated. So that brings me to wireframes, and this is actually the thing that I think is actually a lot more relevant to what we're talking about here. So wireframes, a lot of people use a lot of different stuff for wireframing. We use Illustrator for all of our wireframes, and there's a reason for that. So this is typically what a wireframe at Huge looks like. The way that Illustrator works is just really, really convenient for how we like to generate wireframes. So, you know, like, it just lets you iterate through a lot of versions really quickly. And if you open any of these, like, these all came from a single file, right? So if you open this file up in Illustrator, it's like a canvas, this humongous, with just stuff all over the place. And like, you'll see elements copied into the margins. You'll see like a million different pages, stuff that's just crossed out, notes written down from other people, like getting into the file and stuff like that. But it lets you iterate through that stuff really quickly, so you can do like a million versions of anything really fast, and then like print it out, write all over it, you know, throw it away, whatever. But it also allows us to do relatively high fidelity wireframes. And one of the things that we noticed a long time ago at Huge was, you see kind of like the typical academic wireframe that people do, where it's like, oh, there's a box with an X, and there's like text goes here, or it's all lorem ipsum, and it's all just looks like shit. People don't pay attention when you present that like to a client. Like, I think the Eurosport guys are kind of an exception, and we could have done uglier wireframes than this for them, but they have a very ridiculously high taste level as well, so maybe that wouldn't have worked. But when you're presenting wireframes to like business people that don't have a design background or don't know what UX is, it helps to have stuff where it's like, oh, I can see that that's basically just a black and white comp. And this is basically the same style we use for pretty much all of our wireframes. But because we do them in Illustrator, it's really easy to push that stuff over to Photoshop. It's really easy to share amongst like designers and UX people as well. Everybody's using the same platform. It integrates really well with InDesign, which is how we kind of hand off annotations and all that kind of other stuff. So it just creates a really seamless workflow. The thing we wanted to do with this site is is really kind of put in a lot of like little touches that help people kind of like encourages them to explore a little bit more. So there's like this is actually a thing that I see more and more often now, but like forward and backward browsing, and then like everybody loves parallax these days. It's totally played out. Like it's so last season. You should totally not do it anymore. But there are little kind of like elements of it that we like to use. So just things like this, like never having an empty right rail. And so like when you start scrolling, like stuff sticks. This is the simple version of the article page. We did a couple of different ones, and I'll show you prototypes in a minute because that's actually the interesting stuff. And then we had some ideas for some other pages, like a live hub. So as you probably may or may not be aware, television rights for sports are kind of ridiculous and hard to navigate. So one thing we were thinking about is like, is there a way that we can have coverage of every like live event without actually having the video? So the idea here was we can basically create these custom, per sport, create a custom live hub so that you can kind of see how the event or the game or the race or whatever it is, how it's progressed. And then, you know, it's a timeline. I've never seen one of those before. There's a timeline basically to showing kind of like as content gets pushed through, you kind of see the updates. I kind of covered this already, but this is basically like the whole ethos of the huge team. It's like, don't be precious about your work, iterate fast, generate ideas, do 1 million versions. If someone tells you it's be like, okay, I'll do another one. Don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. Yeah, design and prototypes. So one of the reasons that like I said, Illustrator and Photoshop, like they jibe really well together. But one of the things that we like to do is getting things into prototyping as quickly as possible, which is another reason why we do high-fidelity wireframes, because you can basically start to prototype a high-fidelity wireframe before you get like a fully baked Photoshop comp done. So yeah, we started to do like prototyping, and there's like just cool things, like little touches in the prototypes that we wanted to kind of like call out, infinite scroll, that kind of stuff. How the navigation expands and contracts, which I think is really elegant. And then like a lot of the cool little touches of how this works, like when you get down to iPad size. Oh, don't do this to me. Oh, there we go. So when you get down to iPad size, like each of the columns scrolls independently. Kind of cool. And then as you get down even further, of course, there's the mobile version, where basically the 3 columns just become tabs. And so it's a really simple page structure, but because of the way that our workflow works, we try to componentize things as much as possible so that you can get something into the hands of a developer when you actually need a developer as quickly as possible, and you're not kind of like hamstrung by waiting around for design to produce a deliverable, or you can't start because your wireframes are so terrible. I'll just kind of walk you through a couple of other pages that we did here. This is the simple article page. We did a whole bunch of flavors of article pages for these. So this is the simple one. So basically, like, would be your typical article page. There's a couple little sort of like things that are nice about it, like the right-hand column sticks. Is this the one that's going to work for me? No. Yep. And then like as you resize, oh look, there's that thing that I showed a second ago. And as you resize, obviously, like, look, it's totally responsive. Everybody loves something that's responsive. This also scales up to television size. So like that was the other thing, is IPTV was one part of the brief, which is actually really interesting because it kind of, when you start to think about how you make something work with just a remote control, it becomes really dicey. So this was our kind of like our great idea for like an immersive article page. So like there's big events every now and then that they do a lot more packaging around the content, and it's like typically pieces that'll take longer to produce. So you can imagine, like, at the end of the World Cup, there'll be like a World Cup retrospective, and that's kind of like what this template was meant for. And it just feels a lot more kind of cinematic, I would say. There's premium advertising slots built into it, calling out the comments. When you see things like this, or like Snowfall, or like I think Pitchfork does a really good job with some of their like op-ed pieces. The fact that the actual UI is cool is what makes people share it, even if the content is bad. Like I don't know if you guys saw Snowfall, but I didn't actually read it. I just went through the whole thing. I was like, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool, and then like shared it with somebody else, and it could have had lorem ipsum in the whole thing, and I never would have known. So yeah, with this, it was like we wanted to basically really show like a cool multimedia experience. So you get like a video slideshow halfway down the page. The lineup and the tactics of how the game went. Slideshows are all in line. Comments, obviously. But this is the cool thing. At the very end of the article, oh, it didn't do it because I loaded it already. At the end of the article, we have this, like basically the things, other things you should read. Let me reload this. This was another thing. Like we wanted to make like something that was way different than anything anybody had seen before, with how we did content redistribution. So at the end of the page here, if you just keep scrolling, the next article just loads in line. And the way that this was actually very complicated in terms of the way that it's strung together, because if you come from the home page, the articles that are in order in one way, and what we wanted to do is have the articles at the end of the page just be in the same order that they were from whatever index you came from. So if you came from the David Beckham like player page and there was news articles about him, like each of them would lead into the next David Beckham article based on where you came from. If you came from the home page and came to one, the next article might be different. But it basically is just kind of an interesting way of trying to get people to keep consuming and try to offset that pogo stick behavior you see really often with news sites. Like if you look at Reddit, for instance, the entire thing is built off of the fact you click a link, close it, click a link, close it, or click a link and go back. I only got 5 minutes, so I'll show you a couple other things. And then I didn't have an ending for this, so now I'm just showing stuff. Yeah, so the Live Hub pages, these ones are actually some of my favorites. This is the football one, obviously. And then when you scroll down, like, you know, you get like something interesting that sticks, and there's some like kind of fun elements about it. But then we went and did a couple of like explorations around other stuff. So like, what does it look like for tennis? And when you scroll down here, it's all, you know, it's based on sets, so you get a little bit of a different experience for this. And then for cycling, the elevation is actually really interesting, and how people, like how places change and all that kind of stuff is the interesting thing there. So as you scroll down here, you get a little bit of a different flavor about like what the Peloton's doing and all that kind of stuff. It all kind of, you know, degrades gracefully down to the other sizes. Oh look, there's a mid-state you're not supposed to see. These are prototypes, they're not actual finished products. So, yeah, what else do I have? There's some other cool stuff in here. The site's live, so if you go to Eurosport.fr, it's up right now. The rest of it will be launched. It'll be launched globally, I think, next week or the week after, depending on how QA goes. This is a category page. What else do I have? I have 3 more. Aren't you just dying of anticipation? Oh, so this is actually kind of cool. This is like the standings page, and does a simulator work on this? Yeah, so we have this thing called the simulator, and so like if you want to see how games will work out in the future, if you're a betting man, like half of my team is, you can basically sit in here and say like, oh, I think these guys will beat these other guys by X number of points. Oh, this isn't actually functioning, is it? Anyway, what you can do is you can basically, in the simulator, type in what you think the score will be, and it'll see how it'll affect the standings going forward. So if you want to see kind of like how a season might unfold in the future, you can sit there and fiddle around with the scores of the upcoming matches, and then see how that will affect the standings. So, you know, if you want to see kind of if your team's going to get relegated or not, like this is kind of like the fun little toy we built in for that. Yeah, so another thing we try to do is like always make each page different. So here, like obviously we don't use the same page template over and over and over again. You know, the typical like left column with content, right column that no one looks at. What we always try to do is mix it up so that you get a little bit of a surprise every time you hit like a new page. Again, just kind of encouraging people to use the site and explore a little bit. That's it. I got nothing else.
Do keep those tweets coming in to #CreateNow to let us know what you think of what you've seen so far. And do enter that competition for those fantastic prizes. Details are coming up right now. Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch, with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services. And a 12-month membership to the Fotolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now.
take another deep dive now to see the sprite sheet animation capabilities within Edge Animate and Flash Pro in action.
Hi, this is Rupert Knowles from the Adobe Creative Cloud team. In this video, we're going to be talking about animation and how some of the new features in Creative Cloud 2014 can really help you speed up the development of your animations. For centuries, animators have been using image sequences to create the illusion of movement. From the humble flipbook to modern computer animations, the technique is essentially the same. Build a set of individual frames and then sequence them fast enough to fool the eye. And Adobe Edge Animate allows designers to do the same thing, but up until now the effect has been achieved using individual image files. Now, there are two challenges to this approach. The first is creating, exporting and managing a large set of individual frames, and the second is performance. Web performance, download performance and performance of execution within web pages is vital to web designers. One of the challenges with using a lot of frames is it creates a lot of traffic, a lot of downloads, and that can impede the performance, especially with large animations. So, to show you an example, say I've got an animation and I have a number of individual frames. Here are my frames. So what happens is the web page says, oh yes, I'd like frame number 1 please, and it says, yes, I'll download that. It's a very polite web page here. Frame 2 please, frame 3, frame 4, frame 5, frame 6, frame 7, and so on. Each request here, each HTTP request has overheads as we download them, and obviously the browser's having to manage these images and sequence them as well. So we get some performance impact of managing all of these frames. As we download them, you can see the obvious performance here, as it's quite slow to access and download these. So the alternative approach to using individual frames is to use what's known as sprite sheets. So with a sprite sheet, the web application says, please give me the sprite sheet of images. So here we go, and it just hands the one sprite sheet over to the web page. And then Adobe Edge Animate will do the clever stuff of breaking that sprite sheet up into individual frames and then animating it accordingly. Now, sprite sheets have been used by computer animators for a number of years, so most people should be familiar with how they work. So sprite sheets can really save, and then we can get rid of the individual frames, and we can improve the performance. Now, let's go in and see how we would go about creating sprite sheets, but also then use them inside Edge Animate. Now, you could create sprite sheets in an application like Photoshop or another image editing application, but we can now also create those in Adobe Flash Professional. So, if we now have a look and move over to Flash Professional here, we will open up a sample application here, a sample animation that we've created. So let's just run this and play and render the image sequence here, the animation. So here we're rendering a relatively complex animation, multiple things happening here, and it's creating this effect of this text effect here with inspire, create, play. What I want to do is take that now and create a sprite sheet. So to do that, we select, I'm going to select the main container from my animation in the right-hand side here, and we right-click, and we have a new option here called Generate Sprite Sheet. So we're going to select Generate Sprite Sheet, and then it's going to bring up our Export dialog box option here. So now we can see the options, our export options for our sprite sheet. Let me just zoom out a little bit so we can see the elements here. Here we can see it's actually breaking my animation up into a sequence of frames here. And here we can specify things such as the image dimensions, the image file format, whether it's transparent or not, and whether there's any padding and various other options. So we can go ahead and export it directly from Flash Professional. Now I've already exported a sprite sheet. We can quickly go and have a look at that here. If we do a quick look on this, you can see here we've got a number of images, a number of frames that have been created. We have 5 columns, and 10 rows in this particular sprite sheet. It's important to remember those dimensions when we import it into Edge Animate. We'll be using those rows and column numbers to be able to recreate the animation. So now let's switch over to Edge Animate. Okay, so we've got the standard welcome screen for Edge Animate, and obviously one of the advantages here is we can also see the other new features that have been released with CC 2014, such as HTML5 video support, and there's more information on sprite sheet import here as well. We're going to open an existing animation here, and let me just play that for you in the browser, preview in browser, and we can see here basic animation here coming in with some elements coming in. What we want to do is take that sprite sheet and we're going to overlay the sprite sheet onto our existing animation. So to do that, we go over to the library panel on the right hand side. So we're in the library panel here, and we go down to symbols, the symbol section, and we click on the plus to add a new symbol. And this time we choose the new option, Import Sprite Sheet. Okay, so click on Import Sprite Sheet, and we're going to select that sprite sheet we were just looking at here. Click Open, and it's going to give us a preview of the animation. We can actually preview and play the animation. If I hit play now, you'll see how it's not playing correctly because the dimensions and the rows and columns haven't been set up for this particular animation. And this is what we're going to do now. So we're going to specify the number of rows, and we had 10 rows and 5 columns. We also need to specify some of the margins and padding. So we're going to specify we didn't have any in this particular sprite sheet. So we'll set all of these to 0. And now if we click Preview Animation, you can see how now the animation is appearing properly here in my preview box. So this is a really good way we can ensure before we import it that we've got all the settings correct before we do that. So let's click Import, and that will now add the new sprite sheet element into the symbols category here. So now all I have to do is drag this onto my stage. We'll put that on there here, and then we can reposition it, and we're going to just drag it to the center here, and we've got the nice smart guides here showing us the alignment, showing us that this particular element is aligned correctly on the page centrally, and release. Now all we need to do to test it is, again, we're going to preview it in the browser. So we'll go File, Preview in Browser. And here we can see my animation appearing correctly on my page. So it's taken that sprite sheet, it's taken all of those individual frames and been able to animate those automatically from the generated Flash Professional file that we created earlier. Now, if I resize my browser, you'll notice that it's not actually changing. So the animation isn't responsive, it's not adapting to the change in browser size. And obviously that's, again, is one of the really important things for web design these days. You know, the ability to view pages correctly on mobile devices is paramount. So let's just go and adapt this animation to make sure that it's responsive as well. So we select the stage here, and what we need to do is on the stage, in the properties panel on the left-hand side, we can see we've got this option called responsive scaling. So we select responsive scaling. Now the default option is set to width. So let me just show you what that means. If I go File, Preview in Browser, now if I drag and resize the browser, we can see here how the display is adapting to the width, but it's not actually changing to the height. So what we can do is go back to the properties of the stage, and this time under responsive scaling we're going to select both. So you can do height, width, but you can also do both as well. So select both, and now again we'll preview this in browser. And now we can see that if I adjust the height, we can see that my composition is scaling, and likewise for the width as well. So we've got an animation here that's adapting correctly for my different screen sizes and hence my different devices as well. So there you have it, a very quick introduction to sprite sheet support into Edge Animate, and see really how that can not only improve the performance of web pages, but also make the whole creation process far easier, and especially if you're familiar with creating complex animations inside applications like Flash Professional. Please go ahead and download the new update, the new applications, and give it a try yourself. Thanks for listening.
That's it from the 2014 Creative Cloud Web Show. Do check out the other shows, catch up on what you've missed at adobe.com/go/createnowuk.
Thanks again for watching, and don't forget to take part in our fantastic Creative Cloud 2014 competition. Good luck.
Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch, with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services, and a 12-month membership to the Fotolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the hashtag #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now.